we don't have a singer today, so if anybody wants to sing along with me, because I don't know the words, hopefully you'll recognize it.
Good morning, good morning. Nice to see you all. The Spirit of God is on all of us. Thank you for being here. I'm Anthony Prado, pronouns he and him. Let's give it up for Amy Levine. We support you, Amy, this morning. Thank you. And we also want to give it up to our AV team, our sound engineer, Jasper McSilver in the back, turning the knobs and making sure we can hear the message. We welcome all of you to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, where we teach spiritual principles and practices that nourish, uplift us, and celebrate our oneness with all of life. And a special welcome to all of you joining us for the first time. Anybody here for the first time? Yes, we have a couple of people here. Keep your hand raised. We got a packet of information we want to give to you. And also, okay. Over here. Also, a big welcome to anyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you sign up for our weekly newsletter if you haven't, so you can learn about all the things, all the fun things we have are going on here at the center. Join our 2024 community spiritual practice using the Abundance Book, a 40-day prosperity plan by John Randolph Price. Today, we are on the 30th day of the program using the 10th affirmation in the book. Follow along daily in the order of the affirmation, the way they appear. This is round 9, our last round of the year. Let's close out the year strong with our pumped up abundance consciousness. Yeah, we're working. What? I'm sorry? Okay, I didn't think it. Join the 28 days of mindful practice on forgiveness, November 25th through December 22nd. To do that, you have to text FORGIVE to 470-784-0250 to receive daily messages about forgiveness. Join us in the social hall today after service for the holiday homemade crafts fair. Please support our local brands, our local merchants. Stop by and shop for clothing, jewelry, holiday wreaths, and much more. And they've got a real nice setup, so it's going to be nice. Join us on December 24th for our Christmas Eve candlelight service right here in the sanctuary from 7 to 8. Bring the family. Unfortunately, this event will not be live streamed due to the limited volunteer staff, but we welcome you to join us in person if you are able to. The 5-session Women's Spiritual Empowerment Group continues with the final gathering of the year on December 29th. All are welcome to join this discussion. Support Oakland Center for Spiritual Living's 2025 annual pledge, Rising Higher, Growing Deeper. Thanks for your ongoing support. Oakland Center for Spiritual Living continues to thrive. Your pledge makes a vital difference not only in supporting our 2025 budget, but also in allowing each of us to engage in the law of circulation, opening ourselves to greater good as we give. Please join us in nurturing our spiritual home and letting the flow of good continue. To make a pledge, simply visit ocsl.org and select the donate button on the home page. We are starting an OCSL Buddy Love program. The program is intended to randomly partner people in the community into pairs for the purpose of connection, community bonding, spiritual practice, and support. The pairs establish the details of their connection to make it most meaningful for both parties. Visit again ocsl.org/events to register. The 2025 applications for the Board of Trustee are being accepted. Download the application by going to OCSL website /About Us. Scroll down to Board of Trustees to 2025 Board of Trustee application on the right. The deadline for the submission for the board is January 5th. I realize our sirs. We didn't bless the children, did we? That's what I thought. Okay. All right, we're going to do that now. Yeah, we're getting close. And we didn't do the Aloni thing either. I'm sorry. Okay. Never too late. Thank you, Rev. Okay, we're going to honor the indigenous for this land. We respectfully acknowledge that here in the Bay Area, we gather on the traditional land of the indigenous Ohlone people. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who've stewarded these lands for countless generations. And now let's take a moment to bless the children, wherever they are. Okay, let's do it. Now, children in our community and the world, we love you, we see you, we know the truth of who you are. You are unique expressions of God. and we are grateful to have you in our lives. And so it is. Boy, they're not doing well this morning. It's okay. Thank you. Someone's going to talk on forgiveness. You can use me as an example there, service material. Okay, we're on the home stretch here. Spirit Treasure Bookstore celebrates holidays with 30% off on all books, including children and get 30% off on children, including children and card boxes, and there are gifts for under $10. Visit the 30% off holiday table. Please visit our website at oaklandcsl.org and sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News. Remember to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for special updates and content you'll only find by liking and subscribing to Oakland Center. Please like us and subscribe to Oakland Center today. Visit csl.org to see what is happening within our Centers for Spiritual Living global organization information. And so now let's do our mission statement. You can stand if you would like. The vision of Oakland Center for Spiritual Living is to joyfully reveal the love and oneness of God. We are a welcoming and inclusive spiritual community dedicated to individual transformation and collective growth. Our purpose is to love, inspire, and serve our community through education, music, prayer, and play. Thank you very much. Just one last thing. I want to wish each of you a personal Merry Christmas, because I won't be up here until next year.
Hello, Oakland Center. I am Maureen French, a practitioner here, and I use she, they pronouns, and I'm very happy to be your pulpit assistant today. The theme of the month is Sticking the Landing. The theme of the week is Flowing Ground. And I am going to read a couple of readings to get us in the centered place so that we are open to receive. The first reading is by Ernest Holmes, our founder, in the Science of Mind book. In dealing with this subtle power of mind and spirit, we are dealing with a fluent force. It is forever taking form and forever deserting the form which it has taken. The second reading is by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to, rather than opposing the flow of life. The only place where you can experience the flow of life is the now. So to surrender is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without reservation. It is to relinquish inner resistance to what is. And where you're at, just take a deep breath as we go within. Go within to the deep, deep knowing. The knowing that God is all that there is. And that each one of us are here today in sacred space, sacred community, connecting with each other, feeling the energetic as we come together in this community, allowing Spirit to pour into us, celebrating this joyous season of love and light, bringing us together as we open our hearts and our minds, as our consciousness expands. As Reverend Allie speaks her word, she is channeling the Spirit so that we can hear the message that we need to hear. We are here by divine appointment as we celebrate this moment. I give great thanks for this, and so it is.
That's Amy Levine. Let's give her some special love. You know what comes with being in life, this is not a sermon or a sermonette, but it strikes me to say to you that things happen in life that we don't expect sometimes. And this morning was one of them. So we bless our B. DeVoe, who unexpectedly couldn't be here today. And we bless Amy Levine for stepping in and playing some songs that we may know, and we had the lyrics up, but what it does, as I was sitting there, it helps us to appreciate the vocals when we don't have them, but it also helps us to appreciate the piano when we have it by itself, doesn't it? So let's give Amy some special love. I'm Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman. I'm the spiritual director here. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm glad to just say a couple of words of gratitude before we bring on our speaker. We had some folks here, about 10 of them or so, on Thursday who decorated the place. And I believe in gratitude, and I just wanted to say their names. We have, over the next 2 weeks, we invite you to come, where we are going to honor Hanukkah and winter solstice and Kwanzaa and Christmas, including our Christmas Eve ceremony. And so I just want to call the names of the people that I saw here. I hope I don't leave anybody out, but y'all will tell me if I do. Hold on a second. Okay. Paul Persutti, Rev. Deb Hammond, Dorothy Mendez, Ruth Jackson, Helen Neville, Christopher Brown, Susan Urquhart Brown, Linda Wyman, Pam Archuleta, Robert Leeds, Elka Moritz. Was anyone else here on Thursday? Were you here? Are you pointing to her? No. Oh, you were saying hi. Oh, that's good. That's good. So let's give them some special love, shall we? And last but not least, as Anthony said, we're finishing up our abundance book that we've been reading daily. We're finishing that up this year, and so we like to declare it together when we're here on Sunday for the day. Are you willing to do that? Okay, so let me just pull this up, and I encourage you just to declare it and shout it to the rafters for the depths of your being, so this truth manifests in your life right now. How about that? Here we go. I keep my mind and thoughts off this world, and I place my entire focus on God within as the only cause of my prosperity. I acknowledge the inner presence as the only activity in my financial affairs. As the substance of all things visible, I place my faith in the principle of abundance in action within me. And so it is. And last but not least, we have quite a prayer list that Reverend Allie will pray over today. But I just wanted to take a moment to say that this week, over a 24-hour period, with no exaggeration, I was praying with separately at least 7 different people who were either hospitalized, having procedures, having biopsies, having different things that were happening to them. How many of you know, either in your life or know of someone who is having some challenge like that going on right now? Most of the hands went up. You too, live streamers. So I just want us to notice that. Notice that it is a thick and deep time for all of us to show compassion for ourselves, to pray for each other, to hold each other in love and truth. Blessed be. And now, beloveds, let us bring on with a warm welcome our beloved staff minister, Reverend Allie Hutchinson, to bring us the word. Reverend Allie.
Let me get this in the right place. So, good morning, OCSL. I'm going to take a cue from Reverend Sunshine and invite y'all to take a couple of deep breaths as a community. This is, it seems like a time of year and a time in history where it's good to remember to breathe. So let it go to that quieter place. And remember, this is one of the places that we take our attention away from the swirl out there and inside and ground in this community where we feel belonging and love. So, sorry. I am Reverend Hutchinson. My pronouns are she and they. And I want to assure you the sound engineer knows that he needs to turn the sound up a little bit, but if anyone feels like they are having trouble hearing because of the mask, I invite you to come to the front. It's a little bit louder up here, so that has helped some people in the past. When I heard that the OCSL or the CSL theme for the month was Sticking the Landing, I knew I had to tell you about the time that my 9-year-old self did not stick the landing, literally. So I'm in an Adagio class, and this is basically a class where there's me and 3 other little girls doing a combination of ballet and acrobatics with a male instructor and dance partner who is just throwing us around. It was so much fun. It's the day of the dress rehearsal, the big day on the big stage in the local auditorium with the lights and people. And I'm gonna have to describe this routine, this acrobatic routine that I was doing, because I decided not to try to recreate it up here. So you'll have to imagine it. So my dance partner, the male instructor, is kneeling on one knee on one corner of the stage. And I'm supposed to twirl and leap and do backflips and run and toward him, plant my foot on his knee, propel myself upward, twist 180 degrees to face away from him, and land with my arms crossed like this, my left foot on my right knee, and my right foot planted on his chest as he stands up and lifts me toward the sky triumphantly and gracefully. So, yeah, Reverend Sunshine talks about the need for soft knees, right? It lets you flex and adapt. That's not the key to this trick. In this trick, the moment I planted my foot on his chest, I had to lock my knee and keep my whole body stiff. Because if I'm wavering at all, he can right me. If I'm doing this, it's all over, right? So the day of the dress rehearsal, I didn't lock my knee and I fell. My mother's version of this story was that I crashed to the wooden floor and slid all the way across the stage. That didn't happen. So I fell straight down, he caught me, he put me on the floor, on my feet, and reminded me to lock my knee next time. He said, "You've got this," and he made me do it again right then, and I did, and I stuck the landing. Yay. and at the performance that night, too. So the reason I'm telling this story is it seems like there are several similarities between that trick and spiritual life and sticking the landing in our spiritual life. The first thing was, as I jump up and turn around and land on his chest, I have to believe that my partner is right in the right place, even though I can't see him. I have to trust that he's going to be able to stand up and hold his balance and hold me standing on him. Once I land on his chest, my contribution to my balance is over. I just have to be stiff and surrender, basically, and let him take over when it comes to my balance. And at the moment that I land on his chest, I have to commit to locking my knee, even though the natural thing in acrobatics to find your balance is to have soft knees, right? So it seems like that's there's some interesting parallels with spiritual practice, right? You're probably seeing them already. So we're asked to believe. We're asked to believe in something we can't see, we can't perceive with any of our senses at all. And believe that that's more real than, these things. We have to trust. We have to trust that that thing, that invisible thing, is supporting us and holding us. We have to surrender. When we get sort of intuitive guidance, we have to actually be willing to surrender to that and follow through. And you probably know the process. You ask for guidance, you get a very clear message, and you go, well, not that. I don't know about you, for me, it's about the third time I go, fine. And then finally we're asked to commit. We have to commit to seeing things from a spiritual perspective. So everything in us wants to do the opposite, right? The things going on around us in the material world are very compelling. They grab us emotionally. When things aren't going well, the relationship's ended, we can't see our way through this financial crunch, or, as I know recently, we promised we wouldn't turn on the news, but we did anyway. We have to commit to seeing that from a different perspective. When I think about our spiritual life, I think of 3 different commitments. So the first is if we want to grow spiritually, we have to commit to our spiritual practice. I know that's not good news. Sort of like exercise, it doesn't feel good at first, and then eventually it does. If we can find that quiet place, go inside, create a little room for spirit to come in, it will, right? And it takes practice. The only reason I could do that trick at all is that we've been practicing it in class 3 times a week for weeks or months. The second way we have to commit is we have to commit for life. The goal of spiritual practice is not to get to the point where you don't have to do it anymore, right? Because it's not just the impact it has on your outside world. It's like the more you do it, the more you commune with spirit. That's the first gift you get, right? That's the first amazing gift you get, is that feeling of feeling spirit inside. And even when you get pretty good at spiritual practice, life will always present new challenges. It's like, oh, you can handle this now, here, right? Yeah. Seems like there's at least one more commitment that is really necessary, and that is whatever the difficulties going on around us, whatever chaos or confusion or uncertainty or crisis, we do have to commit to seeing it with spiritual eyes, to acknowledge it. It's happening. Like Eckhart Tolle, you got to start where you are, right? Be present with it, but then decide to see it with spiritual eyes and realize that there is, beyond what we can see and touch, there's a spiritual truth there, a divine order, something that's being held, right? I wanted to say a note about Eckhart Tolle came up that I felt guided to say. He says, you have to accept the now. You have to accept what's going on, what is. That doesn't mean that you accept that it's going to be that way forever. It's just you can't even begin to think about how to change it unless you acknowledge where you are right now. Being present with it, feeling it, acknowledging it, that's where you ground, and then you can make a change. Or as one of my teachers, I said this before, as one of my teachers used to say, if you want to go from Los Angeles to New York, and you're looking at the flight schedules from Chicago to New York, you're not going to get there. You have to be where you are, right? So we agree to look at it with spiritual eyes, to notice the chaos, the confusion, the uncertainty, whatever's the swirl that's going on around us. And then also know, and I could see this in a different way. There's an image that I use that helps me, and I said this on an Oasis service a couple of weeks ago, and that's the eye of the storm. Some of you may know I grew up in Louisiana. I've been through a number of major hurricanes. You know what those look like, right? But when the eye of the storm comes over, I think you kind of have to be there to really get it. Because there's the noise and the confusion of the storm, and then suddenly it is deathly quiet. Because there's not only no storm, there's no traffic, there's no nothing. The sun comes out, brilliant, no clouds at all. The birds are chirping, you can hear every one of them. That's quite a place. It seems like two different worlds, basically, the storm and the eye of the storm. But it's a good reminder when you're in it that the storm is temporary. That other world was there before, it's going to be there after. It, in fact, was always there. And in the same way, we all have that quieter place inside. We may get dragged into the storm. We may be tempted to drag ourselves in the storm because, it's drama. It's kind of interesting sometimes. But we can always go back and find that quieter place. That quiet place is inside of us. Ernest Holmes called it the place with it in us that can never be hurt, harmed, or hindered. That's our divine essence, right? That peaceful place. And we can make contact with it. We can sort of with practice learn more easily to flow between the swirl outside or inside and the quiet place. Just going back and forth more easily. Which brings us finally to our theme for the week, which is flow, or more precisely, flowing ground. So it's a paradox, just like Reverend Sunshine's talk from a couple of weeks ago when she spoke on standing on solid air. How do we stand on ground that's flowing? And yet, what the theme reminds us is that is what we're always having to do. It's the nature of material reality, of everything around us, that as much as we would like it to be constant, it's always changing and flowing and impermanent. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. And we know how much we love change and uncertainty, right? We've had an extra dose of this lately with what's going on in our country, the uncertainty, on top of whatever uncertainty we're experiencing in our personal lives. The problem is not necessarily the impermanence, which is difficult sometimes, but what we do with it. We want to hold on to what was before, right? We go into resistance. As Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, it's not impermanence that makes us suffer. What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when they're not. So in a world that's governed by impermanence, how do we find our grounding? How do we stick the landing, not once, but over and over and over, right? It's something we have to do constantly. In their book, The Power of Flow, two authors, Charlene Belitz and Meg Lundstrom, describe what happens when we become more aware, when we bring our attention more and more to the fact that we're part of this interconnected web of life. They say the more attention we bring to that, the more we realize that we are not just individuals, but we're part of a bigger web of patterns and events and meaning. And what happens next, they call flow. They define it as the natural, effortless unfolding of our life in a way that moves us toward wholeness and harmony. And that's basically what Science of Mind teaches, right? So the question becomes, at any given moment, or from moment to moment, how much of our attention is on the storm and how much of our attention is on the eye of the storm? Are we able to flow in that way? Are we able to flow with changes in circumstances like we experienced this morning? Do we go into resistance and get too stiff? Or keeping our knees flexible? Are we adapting? Are we using our spiritual awareness and practice to stay in that place of flow? Belitz and Lundstrom describe a couple of ways that that interconnectedness shows up if we're paying attention. One they call fortuitous events, and I invite you all to think about times you've experienced these things. These are just normal events that go surprisingly well. A couple of weeks ago, I called AAA on a Wednesday afternoon during rush hour in the middle of a rainstorm, and they arrived within 5 minutes. That could happen. This cause and effect, I called them, they came. The other is synchronicity. You may be familiar with that term. Carl Jung, the psychologist, identified it. He defined it as the coming together of inner and outer events in a way that can't be explained by cause and effect, but is meaningful to the observer. You notice it. So these could be dreams or unexpected intuitions or events that are weirdly coincidental. The classic example, I think this is when Jung discovered synchronicity. He was sitting with a client, and she was describing a dream she had had, and in it was a butterfly with these just very unusual markings. It's very vivid, very specific. And as she described her dream, a butterfly with those exact markings showed up outside the window behind her. He figured he needed to name that, right? So for a long time in my adult life, there were lots of times when I seemed to be in the flow. Those little synchronicities and fortuitous events were happening more often than usual. It's as if Spirit was leaving little breadcrumbs for me and clearing stuff out of my path. And other times when, not so much. So I always wondered, like, what's the difference? Is there a way to make that happen more easily? One thing I realized looking back is that those times of flow had one thing in common. I was facing some kind of challenge or some kind of big transition. And even though I wasn't always very regular about my spiritual practice in the past, I just felt like I really needed to up my game and practice regularly. And with all that practice, things started to flow. Who knew? So I'm going to tell you about my most intense period of flow and how I ended up living in California. Some of you have heard this story before. You're going to hear it again. But it fits well at this point of the year in our life because it's an abundance story. And it's not primarily a story about an abundance of money. It's an abundance of intuitive guidance and synchronicity and just magic. So the year was, sometime in the last century. And I was a young attorney in Texas, and I was in transition. So a serious relationship had just ended. My little specialty in the law was going to go away because of changes in the law. And I needed to figure out my next career move. So I'm doing my spiritual practice, really going at it. And it occurred to me one day that what I really wanted to do was to move to California, which seemed impossible. I thought, I love San Francisco, but I thought LA because of family reasons. And even though it seemed impossible, all these little synchronicities started to happen. So synchronicity one was about a week after I realized I really wanted to move to San Francisco someday. A friend I hadn't talked to in a while called and said, hey, I know you mentioned you might want to move to California maybe one day. I was like, And she said, I'm taking the California bar exam. Would you like to split the cost of the bar review course with me? And I, of course, said no. This is sort of some cross between a 5-year plan and a pipe dream, right? So, sorry. A couple of days later, I'm looking at my homework for a personal growth course that I was taking, and the homework for that week was to do something crazy. Yeah, you got it. I thought about it for a minute, And then I thought, taking the California bar exam for no good reason would be pretty crazy. So I called her and said yes. And then as I looked at all the costs and everything, I realized I could and should get a law firm to pay for that. So I called a recruiter in LA and said, could you just kind of look around? I don't know. So synchronicity number 3, I tell a friend about this and she says, oh, I know a legal recruiter in LA and she's great. You have to call her. She's into new thought. She's wonderful. So I called. She was not a legal recruiter in LA. She was a legal recruiter in San Francisco. And I thought, what the heck? Like, good to have a plan B, right? So I told her to look around. So synchronicity number 4, I'm not really committed to this idea yet, but my law firm does something that, without going into details, it's the kind of thing that your employer does it and you go, oh, I need a new job. You've probably been there, many of you. I immediately went back to my office and called both recruiters and said, no, I'm serious. Let's set something up. Number 5, run number 5. While they're doing that, my friend who had recommended the LA recruiter, who was a San Francisco recruiter, pointed out one day that every time I mentioned moving to California, I said San Francisco instead of LA. I didn't even know I was doing that. Number 6, I'm flying out for interviews. First to LA, then to San Francisco. I go to the airport, I check in, the woman at the counter tells me what gate I need to be going to go to LA. I go there, the guy looks at my ticket, he gives me a boarding pass. I'm walking toward the airplane, the little ramp, and he calls me back and he looks very confused. And he said, where are you going? And I said, LA? And he goes, oh no, this is a flight to San Francisco. And then finally, synchronicity number 7, I went to LA. The hiring partner at the firm there really, I could tell, he went over and over and over again. He really wanted to hire me. Didn't think they had enough work for me. I suspect the same was true of the law firm in San Francisco. But the hiring partner was really into the Buddhist community. He loved the fact that I was interested in world religions and new thought, and he hired me. So here I am. All this happened between mid-March and mid-May. So as synchronicities go, that was a pretty wild ride, right? I assure you, being in the flow of spirit is not always like that for me. Mostly it feels like a little bit of extra grace and ease. It's sort of like that proverb. What is it? Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and he or she or it will make your path straight and smooth. So I'm guessing many of you have had similar experiences, times when you had fortuitous events, you felt like you were in the flow. You're probably thinking about them right now. What I will invite you to do at this particular time, especially for the next few months and hopefully for the rest of your life, is cultivate that experience of flow like you would cultivate a garden. Spend time with it. Spend extra time going within. Create space for spirit to meet you halfway, right? To show up. The thing in the Bible says, I stand at the door and knock. We have to open the door. So it's a good time to spend a little more time doing that and to just notice and be aware of whatever fortuitous events or weird coincidences might be showing up in your life. It's as if God's leaving little signposts along the way and we're just sailing past them a lot of the time. And I'll leave you with one final quote from Sogyal Rinpoche. Each time the losses and deceptions of life teach us about impermanence, they bring us closer to the truth. When you fall from a great height, there's only one possible place to land on the ground of truth. And if you have the understanding that comes from spiritual practice, then falling is no way a disaster, but the discovery of an inner refuge, or the eye of the storm. So, let us pray. I invite the practitioners to surround the community, to remind us of the way they hold us in prayer constantly. And I welcome Dodie Cheney Ferguson, our practitioner emerita, bringing up the prayer box. And again, we'll take a couple of deep breaths, just letting go of whatever we just heard. It's all inside already. Just finding that quieter place inside where we know there is only that one presence, that one power, that one mind, that beingness that is who we are at our deepest and truest self. That creator that poured itself into the creation, that holds the planets in their orbit, that knows the spin of every atom, every particle of an atom in all of creation, that holds it all in that divine matrix of divine order, whether we can see it or not. That has created us simply to delight in us, to hold us, to co-create with us, to engage in this sacred dance of life, welcoming us, inviting us to dance with it. I know that I am that. And each person here, each person who hears my voice is that. That beingness, that source of all divine love and joy and wisdom, all of which is inside each of us. There is spirit with all of its power and wisdom and joy and love and creativity just there, waiting for us to open the door, waiting for us to open to receive more and more and more of that outpouring of grace, that outpouring of beingness. I know for this community, where we are right here and right now is exactly where we need to be. That we stand on the cusp of a realm of infinite possibility. It's limited only by our willingness to open to it and receive it and embrace it and to join in the flow of that abundance and creativity. I know for our country, each person who cares about it is divinely guided, is held, is guided, is supported in taking right action, in knowing the right thing to do at the right time, in finding the peace within that knows that spirit is in whatever circumstance we find ourselves encountering. I say a prayer for Mother Earth, knowing that she supports us, one aspect of spirit, and hoping that and knowing that we feel moved to support her the way she supports us. I say a word for anyone in our community, in our world, who is suffering in any way or not at peace or dealing with uncertainty, knowing that the peace of God not only is there for them, but is who they are at their deepest essence. I say a word for those who are on our prayer list. First, our nonprofit partner, the Habitat for Humanity, East Bay and Silicon Valley, who believe in a world where each person has a comfortable place to call home. We bless their efforts to realize that dream for as many people as possible. I'm blessing again our world and Mother Earth, all the places of the world that are in conflict or lack or uncertainty or turmoil, knowing that Spirit is there, that there is the possibility always in every circumstance of greater peace and joy and ease and comfort. I pray for the folks on our prayer list, Corey Cooper, Orion, Vivian, and Fred, Karen F., Reverend Ikea, Barbara Tompkins, George Carter, Jerry and Mary, Alice Knutson, Nicholas, Donna P., Lita De Seville and Lupe Capenda, Rita and Peggy, Jack Nelson, Soren Dickinson, and Chris Sukahara, knowing for each of them, right where they are, the peace of Spirit is there, that the possibility of health and wholeness and clarity and right action and where needed, right livelihood is there. I know for Mary Morissette, a smooth and glorious transition as she moves to her next phase of life, and comfort for her family, Mark, Josie, Tyler, Tamron, and all of her extended family. And as we utter these prayers, we know that they were already answered before they were stated, before they were even requested. That Spirit knows exactly what we need, that all of our good has already been given us, and we are so, so grateful. And in that spirit of gratitude, I simply speak my word into the law, knowing that the law just says yes to our intentions and arranges things in accordance with our intentions that are deeply felt. I speak my word in the law. I let Spirit handle the details, knowing that it will. And I echo this prayer and I ask you to join me by saying, and so it is. So thank you to Dodie for bringing that up. And I think I'm done.
Reverend Allie, you are not done. You are only beginning. What a wonderful service. Thank you. You are just beginning. Lovely. I'm Reverend Jerry Carter, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so happy to be here on December 15th. This is our deadline, but not really our deadline for the pledge program, but sort of our deadline for planning our budget. So thank you to everyone who has pledged. I don't have all the numbers yet, but I know we're getting very close to where we are for 2024. So I'm going to give you more details next week when we celebrate, and we're going to celebrate the abundance of the universe because it's flowing in through and as each one of us. And this is a time of giving and receiving, isn't it? And so just for your openness of giving to our spiritual community, and look how beautiful everything is. Don't you just feel so full of happy holidays and love? So I'm welcoming anyone who has not yet turned in their pledge card to please consider doing so today, or you can do so online. At oaklandcsl.org. This is such a tender and wonderful and beautiful time of year for us because this is the time when we really get to set our intentions for 2025, not just as a spiritual community, but individually as well. So we welcome your gifts, and this will continue on through the end of the year as well as into 2025. But as I said, this really helps us plan our budget for 2025. So thank you all in advance for your givingness. Thank you to each and every everyone who's already given and for those of you and you live streamers who have yet to fill out your card. We really appreciate it. It makes a difference in our community. And also, along with that, and I'll be over by the poster with stars for anyone who has not yet received their star to put on the poster. And now is our conscious giving time, yes? Woo! Yeah. This is the time when we get to hold our gifts close to our heart, when we get to really be with what is ours to give this day for our spiritual community. And so we know that there are many ways to give. For those of us who are here, for those of us online, for those of us anytime, we can go to the donate button on our website. We have many ways to give. We have Zelle and text and, like I said, dropping it in our basket this day. And so just go to that donate button when you get a chance too, if you're not ready right here and right now. There you go. Lots of ways to give. We also have a QR code. You see it up there. So thank you all in advance. And let us just with joy and vigor say our affirmation for giving this day. The joy of giving within me activates the grace of receiving with me, and so it is. So as Amy graces us with her beautiful music, I welcome you to come up to the giving baskets. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy Levine. So as we come to a close today, we appreciate everyone who has participated in our service to make this possible. Our musicians, let's thank her again. Our speaker, Reverend Allie, thank you so much. Our practitioners and everyone else who's contributed to today's service. We could not do it without you. If you're visiting with us for the first time and you haven't received a visitor's packet, please be sure to grab one outside on the check-in table before you leave. Also, don't forget that there is a craft fair happening in the social hall after service, so please go and check out the wares over there. Also, too, this is a reminder that our practitioners love to pray. And so we offer a 3-minute miracle prayer after service. We call it in the back in the upper room. So we will be there to offer prayer. Don't bring home an issue or a problem. Also, we're here to celebrate you as well, so please come by. Additionally, practitioners are offering spiritual coaching guidance sessions. So you can check out the website or the foyer in the social hall for any contact information. You can also request prayer through the Ministry of Prayer box, which practitioner Dodi Cheney Fernandez was holding up here. It's in the back, and you can go ahead and fill that in, and then it'll be prayed over for 2 weeks. Now, let's all stand and say our closing affirmation. I surrender to the divine flow of Spirit guiding my life. The divine truth is my focus and reality. I am in the flow of life now. Thank you.